welcome Shawn Dollar.
Thanks for having me. So this has been a cool experience. It's an honor to be here and talk to you guys about flow. I spent a lot of my life trying to figure out how to get into it before it was even defined as a word flow. It's just, I don't know, I was always able to kind of get in touch and kind of follow my intuition. And I luckily met a really sweet girl. Her name's Jen. She's now my wife, but we met when we were 18, and she was obsessed with like healthy food, and she's a holistic nutritionist. And I was like, grew up with like allergies and shitty diet, and mom giving me milk when she knew I was allergic to it, and on and on and on. So it wasn't until like college and when I was older that I kind of had control of my life, you know, and could start making my own decisions. And luckily, you know, my biggest influence was her, and she's the one that would always, she just listens to podcasts nonstop and whatever she can get her hands on. But what's kind of the joke in the family is she doesn't really do the stuff, she just tells me and then I go do it. So I'm kind of like the test pilot. But it's been awesome because, I mean, I got to know so many secrets, and, you know, like, honestly, like, everything that I've been able to achieve has been because of changing my mental state and going out there and kind of doing what seems impossible to everyone, but believing it was possible. And my kind of definition of what the public sees me as a professional big wave surfer. I had, you know, surfed in the Mavericks event competitively for quite a few years when that thing runs. But more importantly, I hold 2 world records for surfing the biggest waves, paddling into the biggest waves in the world. And what that means is, just, you guys might know, but some people get confused on that I didn't use a jet ski to pull myself in. I didn't use a boat. I used my own arms to paddle into, the first time, a 55-foot wave, and then again later a 61-foot wave, which a wave that big is, I mean, this is maybe 30 foot.
Almost 7 stories.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And to catch a wave moving that fast with your own arms, I mean, those things are moving, you know, 40, 50 miles an hour. It's just the physics of it is like, it's not really possible to do. But you get in that flow state and you figure out a way to harness it. And for me, I always had this like attraction towards challenging waves or bigger waves. Like my friends, when the waves would get big, even when I was a little kid, like 12 years old, 14 years old, my friends would all scatter and just move down the coast to like small waves, and I'd always move up the coast in the big waves because I just felt alive. It was like playing chess with the ocean, you know? Like every move you made, the ocean was gonna make a move, and you gotta make the right move to meet it and match it. And energetically, you know, when we talk about like the flow state, like I just talked with Tone about how I felt like surfing was and is kind of the perfect reaction to, you know, the world. Like, it's literally energy coming at you and you're riding it, so you're becoming part of it. And you know, if you're kind of having a bad day, yeah, you go out in the ocean, you feel better, but you're not really going to have a good surf. You know, like, you have to kind of get your head right to go have a really good surf, or to compete and to get that right wave, because it's literally energy moving thousands of miles, and, you know, it might keep going to your friend. You know, it might be their position or their priority. So my friends kind of joke, and like, whole life they've always kind of called me the wave magnet, because the good waves would always come to me. And part of that was just being in the right energy flow. So I guess talking story, like, there was a couple moments that kind of defined this path for me, and one of them was when I was, I think it was around 7th grade, I was surfing with a couple friends at a spot that is close to where I live now, but it's just to describe it, it was just kind of a normal sunny day. It was a beautiful day. And I rode this wave just like I normally do, right near this large rock, and pulled out of the wave. And what was interesting was usually there's a good break between the next wave. Somehow, I still don't really understand what happened, but there was another like good sized wave, like, you know, like roof line, right behind this one. And I really didn't have much time to react, and it broke right on my head and sent me to the bottom. And when I came up, as I was coming up, I had seaweed and kelp like wrapped around me, to the point where I was not going to the surface anymore. Like, I couldn't see the sun. I mean, I wasn't that deep, but I was just, dude, being wrapped in kelp is scary. It's just like being caught in like it was tangled around my arms, it was tangled around my legs. And as the surge and the water started pulling, it started like literally like pulling me in all directions, and I was trapped. And I was, you know, a young kid. I've never been really through this experience, and I was under for a really long time. And I was under to the point where I started blacking out, and I let it go. You know, like, okay, I'm dying. Like, this is it. And I started going towards the white light, and I went through the white light, and I remember just being like pissed, like fuck this. And I literally had angels come, and I had like that whole experience happen, and it was like I was kind of like I had to cross this threshold in there, and I saw my whole life pass before my eyes. And and I remember like looking at them and saying, "You're not fucking taking me. Like, I want to have kids." And it never crossed my mind before at that point, but I realized like, I'm not done. Like, I wanted to have children, and I was like, "You're not taking me." And what was interesting was like it all shut down, and the kelp that was strangling me in my neck, literally choking me in arms, all burst. And it slowly let me up, and it let me up, and I was finally able to take a breath. And then another wave came and smashed me again and put me through that whole situation. And this time though, I was like, fuck, I'm not dying. And it was interesting, that time I lifted through the kelp. And it was there to scare me, but it just went over my body and released me up. And I was floating in the water, like by myself, just like, holy shit. So as a young kid, that was probably my first like real experience with like, I think we all have an ability to not just create our future, but manipulate the present, you know? And to define in a moment what we want. And I could go on with stories of near-death experiences and all this other weird shit that's happened to me. But I think probably within this room, maybe the subject matter of my first world record and kind of the steps that laid up to that would probably be kind of interesting to you guys, because that was like, there was just things that I purposely did and reset myself so I would be ready for that day, and that day was anyway, I'll walk you through that.
Yeah.
I think you guys would be interested in that. So my day job is I'm a sales rep, and I do a lot of driving, and I was on a road trip, and we got a call that Mavericks contest was going to be on in like 2 days. That's kind of how they tell you, you know? You don't get much of a warning. So it's one of those things, it's like, drop everything you're doing, you know, Mavericks is on, or you're getting in a plane, you're going to fly to some part of the world. And like, I really wish, like, with the sport I did, I wish it was like on a calendar, like Super Bowl. Like, those guys get they get like 3 months off. Okay, I got to train, I got to get ready. Like, I have to be ready all the time. And you know, you get a few days on a chart, but really you're kind of like always in this like state of like, I gotta be ready, almost probably like a soldier. Like, you know, you don't know when the battle's coming, but the battle's coming, and you gotta be ready. And so you never get a chance to really relax. And we got the call. I personally was not in the contest at this point. I was getting well known for charging out there at Mavericks, but I wasn't famous at it by any means, except for within the group. I wasn't invited to the contest, that was one of my goals, but I didn't really care. I was out there because I loved surfing big waves. It was the point where everything in my life would like come alive at that point. Like, I kind of joke like that I spent my whole life like playing by the rules and being a good kid and doing everything right, and I could go out and surfing and say fuck to everything and just turn it on. Like, that's where I just turned it on. You know, like, it's where I broke all the rules. It's where like everything that shouldn't happen I was doing. So what was interesting about this day was I had been obsessed with riding the biggest wave in the world. Obsessed with, I wanted to break the world record. Only one other person had done this at this point, who was currently at 50 feet. And it just doesn't really happen. Maybe Greg Knoll surfed Makaha, the biggest wave ever, and then it was beat later by Taylor Knox. So it was like maybe 2 people had ever surfed the biggest wave. It was just kind of this faux pas on surfing. And, but I was really disciplined. I was eating well. I was doing like many of the stuff that you guys are learning to do here. I was meditating. On, I'm gonna ride this wave. I was visualizing myself on that wave every day. I was obsessed with it, and I knew it was gonna happen, and I had a plan and a strategy, and I knew that like how I was gonna look, where I was gonna be. I was just waiting for that day to show up, you know, like it was just a matter of time. And I would also do, interestingly enough, and I think this is important to mention, like, because it's going to come up as I talk about this, but you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about the fear that would come with the opportunity that I was looking for. And I would literally, you know, be working in San Francisco and see a 50-story building and be like, fuck, imagine if that was a wave. Like, it's terrifying. And I've been hit by waves that big and bigger. And if you stand there and you visualize it and you feel it and you're like, I can survive this, or like a big eucalyptus grove, like that was the acclimation so that if that opportunity comes, like, you're ready, you know? And it was interesting because I'd be driving down the freeway doing that. I just like, it was just like, okay, I'm getting the body, I'm getting the mind ready. So that night that they were going to run the Mavericks contest, it was going to be huge. We knew it was going to be huge. And for me, it was frustrating because I wasn't going to get a surf in the event. And they kind of locked down the whole area, and there's a period of time between the semifinals and the finals, so the semifinalists can rest, that you get a surf. So I knew that if everything went right, I'd have maybe a 45-minute window. And so I got home the night before from a road trip, and I remember talking to my wife, and she's like, how are you feeling? You're going up there? And I was going to board caddy for one of the surfers in the event. And I'm like, I was feeling sick. I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling like shit. And I remember being really frustrated. Like, this is like, you wait and wait and wait for like these type of swells, and then to not be like mentally or physically feeling up for it was like frustrating. It was really frustrating. So I ended up going in the garage, and I remember telling my wife before I did this, before I went in my infrared sauna, I'm like, don't worry about it, I'm not going to try to surf. Because she's worried about me. And anyway, I got in the infrared sauna, which I highly recommend. Those guys have probably used that before. And started doing this visual meditation it's this guided meditation of self-healing. And I've used it many times, and it's super powerful. And I'd get out and I'd get into like a freezing cold shower or outdoor shower, and then I'd get back in the sauna. And I just kept doing that. And it was, that's just what's so nuts about these type of things that we have available to us. I got out of that sauna, and like, it's on. Like, I'm ready. Like, that cold or whatever was bugging me is gone. Like, I reset my system, I was ready. And then I had to explain to my wife, like, I'm ready to go. So the next morning we get up to Nubs, and it was so damn big. It was so big that that morning when they put our competitors area behind the jetty, and that's where we were supposed to change and get ready. And while we were doing that, waves started surging over the jetty into the harbor. And I mean, at one point, it wiped off a whole bunch of tourists. They were getting washed in the harbor. I had to run down the beach, and like this really large person was like rolling underwater down the beach. They weren't in good enough shape to like control themselves. And I remember it was 300 pounds plus. I just had to like dig my shoulder into them, pin them into the sand to stop them from the surge, and then wrestle them up and like hold them up. And that's kind of the way my morning started, you know? It was like fucking chaos out there. Like people on the beach were getting like wiped off the beach. Like people were breaking legs and over rocks, and it was just really intense. And I don't know, it was just kind of like, and I still hadn't even seen the waves yet. Like at Mavericks, you're still like, they're so big and there's so many waves in front of them, you're just like, it's gonna be ugly out there. So I got on a jet ski, luckily, and it brought me out there. And again, I'm supposed to be a board caddy, so I got my friend's board in my arm, and my board in the other arm. And my friend did really well in the contest, but what was interesting was, for me, I was really just kind of was forced to sit on the sidelines and like study the playing field, where most people, if you show up to Mavericks or you show up to surf or you do anything, you get there and you go out and you participate. But for me, I wasn't allowed to participate. I had to sit on the ski and watch and see what was going on, watch the dynamics, watch each set coming in, watch the swell coming in. And it was kind of cool because it ended up making me really aware of what was going on. It wasn't just like, I'm gonna paddle out and like sit down and wait and maybe be in the right spot. I was able to start formulating a plan and seeing like the way the rhythm's going in the ocean, where the waves are breaking. Because this day was, if Mavericks breaks here, Mavericks always breaks right here. Tapers, always breaks right here. Except if it's absolutely massive, it turns on this whole other reef out there. And it goes from like, the playing field is like a 20 by 20 square. Like, that's why I was really good at Mavericks. I could fucking sit in this square, the size of this room, and a 40-foot wave to a 20-foot wave would come, it's gonna break right there. And everyone would always run, and I would always sit right there and wait for it. But today, you couldn't sit right there. And so people were just getting their asses kicked left and right by 40, 50-foot waves. It just, the whole rule book was thrown out the window. And I was just like, kind of like a caged animal, like just getting so psyched. I mean, you can't not get psyched. If you're watching this, you're getting psyched, like even if you don't surf. It's intense, it's insane. But I was like stuck, like watching it. So I was like getting just fired up. And a little funny story is, you can't sit in the water that long. So I was kind of bumping between friends' jet skis, just trying to stay dry and warm. And that intermission was coming up, and I had my plan, and I knew I was going to go sit about 100 yards further out, slightly to the right, and all this stuff. And I jumped on my friend's jet ski that was doing water patrol, and on his jet ski was Shawn Dollar, which is literally the best big wave surfer in the world. And Dorian was just like me. He wasn't in the contest, and he was psyched. And so he just started like asking me questions like, Dollar, what are you gonna do? What's the plan? And I just didn't even think about it. I just like told him what my plan was. And he's like, that's it, cool. And didn't think much of it. And then the horn blows and it's time for us to surf. And I jump off the ski and I start paddling out. And I look behind me and Shawn Dollar's literally just following me right out. He wasn't thinking like, what am I gonna go do? He was thinking like, what is Shawn gonna go do? So I was like, fuck, like, because I would have had it totally to myself out there. Like I said, everybody was trying to still kind of sit in here, but I knew that I had this 40-minute window, and every 20 minutes, there was a set that was so damn big. It was breaking 100 yards outside the bowl with an entry point to get in. And if you rode one of those waves, you'd ride the biggest wave in the world at that point. And now I had Shane Dorian trailing me that had 2 months later at Waimea Bay just ridden what the media was calling the new world record. And he was burning a friend of mine, so he was dropping in on that surfer. So it's kind of like you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to ride a wave by yourself, but he has no shame, so he was dropped in. So now I got this guy that's, I just knew if he gets an opportunity to go, he's going to go on this wave, no matter what. And whatever, it was fine. But it was still kind of like this mental, like, fuck. You know, like, you've got like LeBron James, like, that's like hanging out with you now. Yeah, you're like, fuck, like, I did not need that. Like, so, anyway, I paddled out to, like, way the fuck out there, like, really far out compared to where we normally were, and just sat, just kind of like, knew that this was kind of the right spot. And it was just really intense because there was waves that were coming through that were the biggest waves I've ever seen, and they were nowhere near big enough to break because they weren't the waves that I was waiting for. And so you're sitting there like feeling this like swell and watching these like waves come through and just being like, this isn't what I'm waiting for, and what am I really out here doing? Like, do I really want this? And it wasn't long before that set came, and it was really intense because, you know, you're sitting on the boat, you can see the horizon, right? You can see for a few miles. I saw this set coming a few miles away, and you just see this, like, you know, this happening. When you see that happening, those are waves, like, stacking on top of each other, like, fighting for position. You're like, okay, got about maybe 2 minutes, and it's coming. And that set started pouring in, and I remember like the first wave was absolutely enormous. I might have been able to catch it, but it was like, that one's not big enough, because there's one that was like 5 or 6 back that was like doing this. It was way bigger than the rest. And remember, it was really hard because it's like that fight or flight mechanism is like going bananas in your head. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Dude, you do not need to be here. And, you know, through the training and all my experience before and surfing those big waves, I was as comfortable as you could be, but still being faced with like that new fear and that new experience, like it was really hard not to run. But I kept telling myself, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I turned down like maybe like 2 or 3 waves and might have been able to catch, but I knew that I was waiting for that one that I could see. And what was interesting is when that wave came, it was just like, at that point, I mean, I've seen bigger waves now, but at that point it was by far the biggest wave I've ever seen. To stare down a 50-foot plus wave is just like, since it's the size of that thing, the sheer magnitude, the power that that thing has, knowing that that wave will kill you, like, and you're just like, you should not be riding that. That's like human, like, there's nothing inside really a human, instinctually, that you want to go ride a wave like that. Everything's about running at that point. And I really was scared when I first saw that wave. And I remember like being, this is what I've been training for. I want this. And I remember telling myself, like, I want this. And because there it is. This opportunity wasn't going to happen again. I knew that. I mean, I wasn't going to get another 20 minutes. They're going to run the final. Maybe would never see a swell like that in my lifetime. I surfed Mavericks, and I haven't. So it was like, there goes the opportunity. Here's the opportunity, you know? I mean, how essential is that in life? You know, you train, you practice, or you want something. And how many times when it gets to you do you turn it down? You know? Or do you push it away? And it was hard to not react like that, because that's pretty natural. And luckily I just said, this is it, I'm doing it. And I turned around, I started paddling. And I saw this like chunk in the wave where everything at this point like starts funneling down to like essentials. Like you are so hyper focused on what's about to happen and what's going on that you don't see really anything else besides what you need to see. And I saw Shane Dorian on my right, who had been, at this point, he's kind of like looking at me, trying to figure out what I'm doing and watching this wave. And I see this like chip in the wave. It's like, what that means is like, and a wave coming in that large is like, you need to be on a crested wave to catch it. There's a point of where it goes vertical enough that you can paddle in. And these waves at this point are so big that they're like lumps. These are like mounds, like moving. So they're not like hitting the reef and like standing. But there was like this crease that was approaching where you could see like the shift of like a flaw in the wave that was gonna have more ramp in it than any other part of the wave. And that part would be critical for me to catch. But the problem is it was like, as I'm turning around and I'm gonna surf this way, it was over on this side. So it was in a more critical part of the wave where I wanted to kind of be over where Dorian was, because that would be way easier to surf the wave over there, but I might not get in. But if I went over there, I would have given Dorian priority too. Like, so I don't know, maybe Dorian was there to force me to hold my ground. And I know it's surprise, but still in the moment, I started paddling and like looked over and I mean, I couldn't miss it. Dorian's like only a few feet away. He's now paddling as hard as he can. But I remember him looking at me, and I made the first move, and then when he saw me make a move, he was like, oh, we're going on this one. I was like, fuck. Like, dude, this is not the wave you want to ride with two people. This isn't like surfing at Cowles or Santa Cruz or Steamers Lane. This is like life or death. We're going to travel through the Mavericks Bowl, which is an absolutely scary, terrifying section of the wave. And we're way outside, so we have to travel into that section through this no man's land and then hit the bowl. And I do not want a surfer in front of me, but it wasn't my choice at this point. So I had to just like put it out of my mind, like forget about it. I'm focused, I'm gonna do this, whatever. He wants to ride the wave with me, he can ride the wave. Like, what do you do at this point? And I just put my head down and I paddled as fucking hard as I could, and that chip lifted me and gave me just the right amount of propulsion and push. And as I stood up and pointed it towards where I wanted to go, I saw Dorian, who's paddling as hard as he could, just get lifted out the back of the wave. And I remember just like, I got a clear shot now, you know? Because like, I would have had to change my direction. I wouldn't have been able to pick my line, like two people under, anyway, it was just like, it was nuts. Okay, so then I was like, oh, yeah, like I got it. But then it kind of registered, like, oh wait, you gotta go through the bowl of Mavericks. You gotta go through the part where everyone takes off. And falling where you take off at Mavericks is like life or death. So I can't fall before that point because you probably won't survive. You'd be just underwater too long. So that part was like surreal and nuts. This wave was huge. I remember going by the pack of surfers that were scrambling to get over this thing. You could see like the boats in the channel lined up, and I could see the bowl, and I came into it and I was deep, and basically I ran out of speed at that point, and the wave broke and I wasn't going to make it to the channel, and I remember just like, okay, I can survive this. I've been to this position so many times in my life that I got this, and it was also like filled with exhilaration. And what was interesting, that was probably the one time that I've ever had, usually whitewater hits you from behind. This wave was so damn enormous that the whitewater literally like, 20 feet above this roof, went over my head and engulfed me. So it wasn't like you get blown up by a wave. It was just like, it was a water fountain. and I got the shit beat out of me, and I was getting tumbled and dragged and ripped apart, and underwater I was just screaming, like, like so psyched, because I like couldn't believe I had just done what I achieved. And anyway, long story short, I got the board that I was riding got ripped into 3 pieces. I had to get rescued by a jet ski because I would have went through the rocks. And I got the crap beat out of me, but I came up psyched. And it was really one of the coolest feelings. And like driving by, like all the boats and all the people, like the whole crowd went bananas. It was like being a gladiator, like, you know, like doing a lap. And it was just like, it really was one of the coolest feelings. But what was interesting is like what Peter and I kind of talked about was the high of riding that wave was incredible. Like I said to that point, like I've never felt more alive, you know, to achieve and to have that experience of facing something that could so easily kill you, crush you, and to ride it with grace and to feel that energy under your feet and to be part of it and to survive and to go through was staggering. And honestly, it was like something in my brain like switched from that day forward, where it was like, I don't know, I just had this sense of like, I was always mentally like, not in an ego way, but you're in another realm. Like, I've experienced something that I can't even explain. And it was incredible, and I always kind of like, was really grateful for that experience. Really, really grateful for that experience, because, you know, to truly feel alive, which we all feel alive, but in that situation, I've never felt anything like that. And I guess what was kind of fascinating to me was, as I talk about that, is when I again set another world record when I beat that one, which, by the way, the interesting fact is Shane Dorian beat my record 2 years later by maybe like 2 feet or 3 feet. He got me, not by much. So he was like the 3rd person to ever set a world record. And then I, 2 years later, or 1 year later, stole it back from him. So with a 61-foot wave at Cortez Bank. But I thought that like feeling couldn't ever be met of what I had at Mavericks because of the difficulty and everything else. But the experience that I had out at Cortez, like, far surpassed that, which was just kind of blew my mind of like what we can really experience in this life as humans, you know, like what we can feel, what we can achieve, what we can truly do. And it doesn't have to just be once. It could be many times, and it could be through many different avenues. But, you know, as I kind of go back, like, you know, we all get to sit in this room, we all get to have these experiences, and Tone gets to bring us this stuff, which is so rad, because when, like, the last couple months, I've been working so much and after my injury, I just feel like shit, you know? I feel like absolute crap, but I have to get through it. I have to provide for my family. I have deadlines. I just don't really have the balance. And it's interesting because you can come here and you could do this stuff, and within a couple hours, you can feel incredible, you know? And what's really cool about this, and this is what I want you guys to take away, is I'm not asking you guys to go ride a wave like that. I'm not asking you guys to go have like some crazy life or death experience. What I'm trying to tell you is when I close my eyes, I can ride that wave anytime I want. I can have like that really good feeling, and we've all had really good feelings. We can really pull that out of our memory bank and feel that when we want to. And especially when we do this stuff and we take care of ourselves, we can feel that stuff all the time. So, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah,
That was really good.
that was really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys ask away. I got plenty of questions.
Lead the way, sir.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so back to like the earlier part of your story when you're like 10, 11, where you got caught in seaweed.
Yeah.
Like, was that your first experience where you're like, there's something bigger going on to
Yeah.
life that we've been told about?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic family. I mean, we didn't really go to church that much, but I was going to Christian schools. Like, had a lot of experience with religion through being taught constantly. So I've always kind of known, but to kind of experience it firsthand was amazing. But what was more important to me at that moment was it's not being taught correctly. Like, it's there, but it's not the way they say.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's such a, like, this is all just, you guys are insane. Like, but you guys are
You mean I can't pay for enlightenment?
yeah, and it's all there. And for me, it was more just like, in a certain wrong sense, I was convinced I couldn't drown. I couldn't. Like, that's kind of part of the reason I went so freaking bananas at Mavericks and stuff, was nobody was doing what I was doing. Nobody was taking the risks or the chances, but I really thought that I couldn't drown. Like, I was like, yeah, this is not happening. And I would always, I mean, you gotta understand too that, like, well, long story short is I got smarter. I had a good friend of mine die with me that shattered that thought, because I guess this is the appropriate time to say it, but, you know, to kind of have that experience and to literally think like, I'm unstoppable, I can't die. And this man named Shawn Dollar was with me out there at Mavericks. It was his first kind of trip to Mavericks. He was a Hawaiian surfer, a very talented Hawaiian surfer. And him and I were in this rhythm where he was riding a wave, I was riding a wave. He knew who I was, I knew who he was. And this day at Mavericks was like, all the best were like stepping way back. It was super heavy, it was raw, it was interesting enough, like there was the tsunami in Japan at that time, which did seem to like send some type of energy through the water that was way different than what was going on. It was Mavericks at dusk. It was so freaking gnarly and raw, and I loved it. I was shining, you know, Shawn was shining. And at one point we met up in the lineup, and it was the first time we talked, and it was a really short conversation. And it was like, hey, how are you doing? It was nice to meet you, and I was really impressed with his surfing, and this wave came, and, you know, who's ever been sitting there longest, or whoever's the deepest, or kind of the locals get priority. You know, it's kind of how surfing works. And this wave that came, in every sense of the meaning, it was my wave. And I looked at Shawn, and he wanted it. He wanted it really bad. Just by body language, you know. I'm like, go, Shawn. And he was stoked. Yeah. And that was his last wave. He drowned on that wave, and he never came up. And I went on a wave 3 minutes after him and barely survived my wave. And it just kind of like shattered that thought that I can't drown, you know? Watching somebody in their peak, like, he had no intention of dying that day. And it just kind of was like, I have to kind of rewrite this. And that was really hard for me on a spiritual standpoint, on so many different degrees. But, you know, I think I'm getting a little off topic with what you asked, I don't really remember, but it just kind of like proved to me at that point that we can, in many ways, you know, I spent a lot of time reading about quantum physics too. Like, we're all on a web, we want that, it's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of bringing it to you, or you already have it, technically, you know. So that was just like that experience, that first drowning experience, made me almost cocky, but it made me believe, and I saw it from that point that I could change the day-to-day, change the future, decide what I want, and that we are spiritual beings that have a choice. Not all the time, but we do have a choice. And then I had that happen with Sion, and I realized, like, yeah, we have a choice, but it's not as clear as I thought. It's not a young child, like, I can do whatever I want, I'm indestructible. So, but yeah, it's interesting what we can manipulate. And I think, you know, do you have any comments to say about that? Yeah. I have a feeling you could you could add to that.
Well, I think it's an interplay. Our own field is creating so much of this, and how you manage your own field allows you to create moment by moment what is possible and what can happen. To say another way, you changing your field allowed you to do what you did, allowed it to be possible.
Yeah.
But there's all these people on the beach and all these thoughts and fields right in the midst of the action. And people are typically unaware. And they say, oh, somebody was probably up on the shore going, somebody's going to die.
Yeah.
So that happens too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a level of confidence that you have by visualizing these things and it actually happens, but then you're humbled because you're witnessing somebody close to you pass, you know,
Yeah.
doing the
That
same
literally-
thing.
I probably should have went on that way. And, I mean, I had a feeling not to go.
Yeah.
And that was, I think that I don't know how to really say that, but I think if I would have went, that would have been my experience. But what it did for me, though, was it didn't stop me. It made me re-look and rewrite the way I approached what I did. And from that point forward, we kind of did it as a community, but, I mean, we did do it as a community, but we learned CPR, we learned rescue training. I purchased a jet ski, and I had always had a lifeguard level person on that jet ski that could operate it. And I had a defibrillator and a first aid kit on the jet ski. And what I would tell the driver was, listen, you're not here to pick me up when I fall. You're here to bring me back on my body to shore and start doing CPR on me. Like, that's why you're here. And that was always like, you know, I learned young from somebody that, you know, the theory of shadow, like, everything wonderful shines light on it, there's a shadow. It might be small, it might be big. But if you ignore that shadow, the shadow's going to eventually catch up to you. So look at the shadow, figure out what it means, figure out what your plan is, and then move on. Focus on the light. But if you spend your life ignoring that shadow's going to grow, it's going to haunt you, it's going to get you. So that was me looking at the shadow. Like, how do I get the people around me? How do I get safety systems in place so that we all raise the level of awareness? And maybe I need to start thinking differently. Maybe I need to have a better approach. And it worked. I also too, like, always made sure, like, I like did a visualization meditation before I paddled out. It was always quick, but it was that I can't wait to come in and touch this ground. I can't wait to come back to shore. I'm going to live today. I'm going to call my wife. I'm coming in. And it was interesting because I've always had this like, I mean, this is it started with, what kept me alive was I'm gonna have kids. You know, as a young man that wasn't thinking about kids, that kept me alive, pulled me out. But then I had a kid, and I had 2 kids, so it was like, okay, what is my thing now? And my thing now has become, I'm gonna be an old man laying on my lazy boy with grandkids. Like, I'm not done. I'm not defining, and you know, even when I had my accident in Big Sur, like, time stood still and stopped, and I should not have survived that. And somehow I did. But it was, I swear it's that this is not my time. And it's not just like saying it's not my time, like, it's not my time because. And I don't know if that's gonna work forever, but it has some power to it.
Mm-hmm. How has visualization helped you with your performance now with healing?
Visualization is everything. If you can't see it, you can't do it. If you can't feel it, it's never gonna happen. Yeah, I mean, it just, my first introduction to that was reading and understanding how it was something like as a kid, like that, it blew my mind that snowboarders that were learning all their tricks were practicing it on a trampoline with harnesses. And I was like, only acrobats do that. But as you kind of got into it, it was like, no, they're learning the mechanics of like how to do it, how to feel it, how to see it. And then I was like, okay. And then it was more like, what even kind of blew my mind further was them talking about, you know, that they spend a lot of time with those Olympic athletes that I was in awe about, visualizing what they want. That was such a critical part. And luckily, like, that stuck. And it's true. It's like, if I never saw it, like that wave I described to you, I saw that wave so many times. I rode that wave so many times. That when that wave actually came, I was ready. And I rode it just the way I pictured. But I mean, how much of that is life, you know? Like, honestly, if you just don't, I mean, it's not just about like setting up goals and all this stuff for yourself, but if you don't see your outcome, it's gonna get written by somebody else. Or it's gonna be written in a way maybe you don't want. You know, how many people are just like passive with their life or passive with their experiences? And that's okay to a certain point, but really if you want an experience and you want to have something and you believe in something that you want, you got to see it, you got to feel it, and you got to live it. Like even if you don't, of course you don't have it right now, but when you go into your meditation or you go into your feeling, you better feel it like you do. And when you do that, that thing or that experience is yours, and it's coming to you. And it could be coming to you really fast, it could be coming to you slow, I don't know, but it's coming to you. And you just did that quantum physics of you just connected in that web, that this is yours, and I see it, and I have it, and that's mine. And I can't, you never know how far away it is, but it doesn't matter, because it's coming to you. And it's just, and if you keep that up, and you train and you practice, and you're ready, and you do the foundation, those things are going to start coming like this. Like, I kind of joke, like, before I got hurt, like, I could almost, like, bend the universe in my favor. I could, like, make things happen. And it was kind of a joke, but it's kind of like, it would kind of, like, start giving me tingles. Like, this is kind of getting crazy. And then I had my traumatic brain injury that was so bad that I lost mental capacity to be able to meditate, and that was a really hard time in my life, but I'm healing now, and it's starting to come back, and it's getting defined in new ways, and it's just nuts what we could do. Like, I honestly, I try to explain it to my son, because I try to be like, we gotta meditate, and he's like, whatever. But he loves Star Wars, and I'm always like, let's Jedi train. Because it's like that. It's like, dude, like Luke Skywalker's like, he's doing it, He's always in the right place at the right time. And he's like, honestly, I don't understand. I kind of, like, my son goes, can I lift stuff with my mind? I'm like, yeah, I bet you could. You know, I do believe that we as humans maybe one point can get there. But in the meantime, if we make it easier on ourselves and do this type of stuff that you guys are learning today and have that mental capacity and see it and feel it and bring it to you, I mean, you could really do whatever you want.
So you feel like we do live in a virtual simulation, a video game in some
No,
ways?
I mean, that's like a whole nother subject. I mean, you can get me going on a tangent of what it's like to be in so much pain that you would plug in anything to your body and your mind to go into another space, which I think will get there, which will be scary. But I do think that we humans, I mean us, and we're all at different levels, but for the most part have no idea what our potential is and what we're capable of, and we're just scratching the surface. And there's a lot of distractions, but literally we are computers, and we are Amazon Prime, and we are all that stuff. Like, it's just, some things are bigger and some things take longer and some things are easy. And if you're not doing this stuff, I guess I would say, just start with little things so it's not so frustrating. I mean, don't, like, the one thing, it's like the shadow, right? Like, don't just be like, I'm gonna go win American Idol, I'm gonna meditate on that. It's like, fuck, you're crazy. Like, do you sing? Do you have any experience of that? It's like, it doesn't really work like that. You know, like, what do you focus on? What are you passionate about? So, anyway.
How did having kids influence or change your surfing?
God, I mean, it didn't slow me down, which most people it did. It definitely made me want to be around more, but it didn't lower my risks. People told me all the time that I was going to have kids and it was going to stop me or it was going to slow me down. But the truth of the matter is like, I got so good and it became so easy, and those experiences that I had, like, where just like the realm of understanding switched because of the experiences I had in the ocean. Like, for example, after Cortez Bank, after I surfed that 61-foot wave in the middle of the ocean, 100 miles out to sea with no land in sight, it was so insane, the whole experience, that I pulled up to Mavericks on a good big 40-foot day on my jet ski. I remember just looking at it laughing. Like, dude, this is nothing. And what scared me was that, like, cockiness, because it was like, dude, this place will kill you. It's killed a few people and it will take you, but it was more like that, like, dude, it was just like I could tune in and put my key in, and it was just like on. It was easy, and I was able to do whatever I wanted out there. The waves came to me, and I was fearless, and I could match them and ride them and be with them. And so what was hard was like, yeah, nothing was slowing me down. It wasn't until I finally, like, head injuries, I was getting lots of concussions were adding up. And I could feel my cognitive ability slowing down. I was starting to get worried. And I started giving myself like a timeline of like 2 years. But it wasn't my kids. But it was the accident that stopped me. And what's hard is, like, now I know I could go back out there and perform at that level still, and I just have to keep telling myself no. It's like a heroin addict or something, you know? I feel like I'm at, you know, AA right now. Here I am, I'm a big wave surfer, and I'm addicted to...
Yeah, it's an AA situation.
Yeah, I joke about it all the time, and here it is. But it's just not the right thing for me to be doing anymore. It's not really... I think you can beat your brain, I mean, physically you can beat your brain out to the point where the plasticity isn't there anymore, and I'm there. So I can't take those impacts like I used to. So I am literally trying to define what my next role is, because walking around everywhere, and I'm Shawn Dollar, a big wave surfer, that it's kind of overwhelming. But to just speak openly, like, I don't look at myself like that anymore. I almost like try to shut that down and keep it away, because who am I now? And luckily, Peter helped make it really clear. Thank you for that. On kind of what my next really role is I try to find that and search for that. Part of that is being here and that experience I had, but it is really hard to have, what if your degree was taken from you and all the stuff you studied one day, and you're no longer a neuroscientist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who would you be? It's challenging, but that's life, like, what am I going to do next? I don't know, but part of that is being in this room and talking about it. And I guess as I kind of keep going on the tangent, what's interesting was I used all that skill and that foresight and that ability to find the craziest doctors to heal myself. And I've been this test pilot for several doctors and I literally the series of things I've done, I haven't met somebody that's done them, and to have like basically a full recovery, they're tripping, I'm tripping. But I did it within less than 3 years. And I did it because I was going to get better. And I opened up the universe, and literally doctors started entering my lives who were like, I'm going to help you. Dude, this is, and it's insane. But it's like, what do you want? And it's just like, what can I go do now with the tools that I've had, the experiences I've had, and like a mental capacity to be able to think and feel again? Because what I learned was you can have all the physical attributes, like I was healthy, I still look good, doctors wanted nothing to do with me, everyone told me I was fine, I was losing my fucking mind, and it sucked. And to go from like doing things that are unimaginable and achieving things that just shouldn't happen, to like not being able to think for yourself anymore because you've gone psycho, because you have so much, your brain can't process anything anymore, not being able to meditate, not being able to hug your kids, not being able to respond to anybody besides like aggressively, that was scary. And like, we have to do our best to take care of our brains. That's the most important thing you could possibly do, and it's your biggest attribute. And really everything comes down, our bodies are just vessels and tools to get us to where we want, but really our brain is the one that's making it all happen on many different levels.
Yeah. Cool. Any final words or thoughts you want to leave?
I don't know, any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask one thing?
Yeah.
I kept thinking about it when you were talking about the waves. How do they measure the waves?
That's a good question. So it's I wish I could tell it was more scientific. I worked with Google trying to get a better way of doing it, but there just really isn't. It's the dynamics of a wave changes. There's no real way to get an elevation and a top line, because every wave's trough is different, every wave's crest different, and then truthfully, like, is the wave bigger behind the person, in front of them? Like, there's all these variables. So it really comes down to the guys that measure the wave are a panel of guys that have been doing it for a long time. And they've sat together for the last 10 or 20 years, guys coming in now. So they have a ton of experience. And it really just comes down to calipers. Like, when I knew what my waves were, I had it estimated to a couple feet when they said 55 and 61 feet. And basically you take, knee to shin, figure out how tall the person is, reverse ratio, bottom of the wave to the top. And it's an estimated guess. So when I get beat, which I have, now I don't hold the world record anymore, by 2 feet, who knows? But to me, I was 1 year after my accident, still in a very bad, dark place, starting to heal, overwhelmed with the fact that I still held the world record, and people were coming up to me being like, "You look great, when are you back?" Because I didn't have my neck collar on anymore from my broken neck. And when my friend set the new world record, I was fucking stoked. It was like, fucking get off my plate, you know, like, see you later, like, I don't have to return, like, it, you know, it was interesting, but, yeah, it's very subjective.
You're like the only one that break it twice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, nobody's done that. It's a pretty weird thing to do, but I mean, you think about, like, when, I would do this meditation at night before I went to bed, before I knew I was going to surf Mavericks. And you're literally like going into a situation where you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what's going to come, and you don't know if you're going to come back to your family. And it is insane what is going on out there. When a wave at Mavericks breaks, it literally sounds like you could be on a turn, listening to a jet engine take off. You know, like that power, that, like the air rumbles, everything just goes, it's insane, the physics of it. It's literally like, still to this day I can go out there and I watch waves and I'm like, it's crazy, I'm looking at like the Great Pyramids or something. You're like, the physics of it, like when a wave breaks at Mavericks, it breaks with such force that it shakes the plates of the earth, and Berkeley picks it up on their Richter scale. So you're riding that shit.
And it's falling on you.
It's falling on you. And
What
it's,
does
you
that
better
feel
fucking
like?
make it. It's like
How do
the
you
most,
like in one piece? You know,
I don't
like
know. I mean,
you're tumbling under
I've
there.
had my ass kicked out there so hard you feel like you're getting ripped apart. But hold on, I'll get to your question. But what I was trying to say is, like, I would go to bed and my meditation was always that, you know, they rated these storms, these huge storms out in the Pacific were like, you know, 300 atomic bombs, the force of that going off. You know, if you drop 300 atomic bombs and that rippled out, those waves would be like, just like unfathomable. And it was like, I was gonna go like ride that energy. And I was like, okay, like, but it was like, that's what you kind of had to come to terms with, that's what you wanted. But then I would go further, I'd be like, as I'm laying in bed knowing I'm gonna wake up at 5 in the morning and drive to Mavericks, those waves that I had already were gonna ride were already made a couple days ago. They were on their way. So I would drop, my last name's Dollar, so I would drop a little dollar symbol, sprinkle it across the ocean on a couple waves, and be like, I'm gonna meet you guys tomorrow. So, and it fucking worked. I can tell you even a better example of that, but it worked.
Yeah.
But that's like, I mean, down to like every moment, it's like, how are you making this yours?
Yeah, that's what I mean earlier about, are we in a virtual reality or video game? Because we like can code like the Matrix.
Yeah.
You can code whatever. You want a helicopter come pick you up? Like, I don't know if that's possible, but
I mean, you
basically
probably could
visualize-
manifest it. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
it's just, I guess it all comes down to like, what's your intent and what's your feeling. Like, to me, if I wanted to make a helicopter show up, I don't really need it. I don't really want it there unless I was in. So it doesn't really make sense. But yeah, it's getting to that point where you could literally kind of make whatever you want happen. And that's when you're in like a flow state, you know, you see like a day-to-day flow state. You don't have to be like surfing crazy waves, but you notice like people call you at the right time. People show up, or like things happen, or like things go effortlessly through your day. I mean, you didn't make all that stuff happen, but you intended for an amazing day and you set up everything and everything's going your way. You're in the flow. So,
My question is, what's your healing mantra? If you're willing to share, you don't have to.
yeah, it's complicated. I get that that like bad feeling. I don't spend enough time, I think, focused on that. My healing mantra really is and was that I want to be better than I was before my accident. You know, because I was pretty messed up before my accident, really. You know, I got scanned. I went to the Amen Clinic, did a spec scan, and they're like, dude, you look like you played pro football. And they're like, that means you played high school, you played college, now you're playing pro football. They're like, you surf big waves? They're like, we've never seen anything like this. So but I knew that. I was studying, like, what are the NFL guys doing for concussions, because they were adding up, and my ability to think and everything else was catching up. So really my overall goal, my healing intention is today, I am healthier than I was before my accident, but I have not healed what I've done. And I just want to be better, I want to be healthier. I've really kind of like hit my goal, I guess, but it's never over, because you wake up in pain still. I'm just I'm pieces, I'll never be the same. But I think I need to define that better.
I want to make a comment. Is it okay if I
Yeah,
make a
please.
comment?
Absolutely.
There, the thing that didn't get talked about is that there's kind of a higher consciousness within us, and that also has goals. And so when we don't, we're not aligned with that, something like an accident will happen that'll force you into that situation for you to progress, because it's like a inner beacon to evolve.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that. And that has an interplay in the things that happen in our life.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, I was going against the grain. It got to the point where it was like, I needed to stop. I needed to stop just because I was getting so radical out there that it was just a matter of time. And number two, the damage was building. But it was easy and it was good, and it was like what defined me. And it didn't matter what intervention or who told me I should stop. Like, I wasn't going to stop. I kept telling myself I was going to stop, but it was going to be like in a year or two. And I needed that accident to happen to, one, be there for my kids, and two, redirect my life into something better. And, you know, it literally took, you want to say God or the universe or whoever it was, breaking me to the point of barely surviving and giving me such an overwhelming task of having to heal my body and my mind, and not just setting the reset button, but just like grinding me down to nothing. And now here I am. So, yeah, I'm not supposed to surf big waves anymore, which define me, but I'm ready for the next phase. And this is, I don't know, I had a stem cell injection like 6 months ago, which brought me back. And I've been working my ass off and taking good care of my family and being the best dad ever. Like, I used to be very detached from my children because I couldn't connect with them, and now I'm like, I get off of work, take my kids to the beach, hang out with them, love them up, and I mean, that's really what I'm supposed to be doing. But as I find more time and feel better, I think there's more to the pieces too. And honestly, Tone, I want to do this for kids.
Let's do it, man.
I want to define what that is together and come up with some rad little program to start inspiring kids, because like you said, like I keep thinking about it too, like it pisses me off that people don't learn this till they're so old. Like,
Learn this.
let's give the kids the tools to like.
I didn't get mine until I flipped, landed on my head and cracked my neck, so I understand what you're going
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like that, right? Like, what if we teach kids like give them the seeds early? Not they're all going to pick it up, but no. Like, I had this really great acupuncturist. He was a emergency room doctor and full healer, but told him, like, when I was a little kid, I went for allergies, and I was talking about, how are you doing this and that, and I just told him about how I was scared of something, and it's just stupid kid stuff, you know what I mean, no big deal, but what he said to me was profound, and it literally changed my direction in life from that point, because he told me that don't use fear to stop you, use fear to push you ahead. Like, fear is a fuel. Like, fear is an energy. He's like, don't let it stop you. Why are you letting it stop you? Use it as a power. Fear is powerful. And I'd never heard anybody say that, but it's true. You know, like, you can take fear and you could run from it, or you can stop, or you could freeze, or you can be like, well, I'm taking this fear and it's my jetpack. And that's why I excelled so much in big waves. It's like, just give me fear, it's on, let's go, you know? So I think, like, if we can get those type of messages to kids early, imagine what they could do. It's like limitless, you know? Like, so I don't know, that's what I'd like to help you get that out and define a program and do it.
All right.
Do it together for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys want to join, it'd be fun.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys have kids, so many of you, right? Yeah, like, I want to bring our kid, you know, like, I mean, it's so hard to get this stuff across to your kids. You know, like, how do we break it down so, like, kids enjoy it and get it? Anyway, that's like,
We saw a glimpse of it earlier. You know, with the archery and the kids stepped in the ice bath and
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it's instilling that sense of play with all of it. And like with my kids, when they start to get mad, I'm like, you can be mad, or you can control your breath and calm down, and we'll talk about it. And they're like, stop talking like that. And it's like, okay, well then hold this. And I put an ice cube in their hand, and they're like, I'd rather just calm my breath down. So I give them the cards to play with. You can
I
either
love
hold this and calm down, or breathe and calm down. But either way, you have to calm down. One, because you're talking too quick and I can't understand you.
can you imagine, like, having, like, a session with, like, a bunch of parents and kids and, like, giving the parents that tool right there
Yeah.
to, like, deal with, you know, problems that arise every day?
And it's I use it all the time. I use it for soldiers with PTSD and anxiety. They'll start to get stressed, put ice cube in their hand. Focus.
Yeah,
Just change the focus. Just change the focus.
Yeah, that's cool.
However you're going to do it, just change the focus. And there's so many children out there that need their focus changed because they're looking at all the wrong things and expecting all the wrong results.
Yeah.
And getting really, really angry at the world when they don't get the results they're told they're going to get, that they can't ever achieve anyway.
Correct.
So, I'm in.
yeah. The final.
Wow.
Jerome?
What kids are capable of, meditation-wise.
Oh,
Yeah. Can you imagine? God, they're just sponges.
Unbelievable.
Wizards.
yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter can bend reality stronger than I can, and I can bend reality pretty damn well. And she's 9. I'm going to get this. Are you? A week later, I'm like, how the fuck did you get that? Like, I didn't pay for that. Nana bought it for me. Did Nana know you wanted it? Nope. 2 thumbs.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, you don't scold them for that. You're like, okay, keep that going.
She sings
Keep
a
that-
mad death metal too.
Oh yeah, she sings like crazy death metal. She thinks she's gonna be a pop singer, but I'm like, you fucking crush that death metal in the car, kid. I don't know many 9-year-olds and 7-year-olds who sing death metal like you and your brother.
God,
man.
it's so amazing. Wow, we gotta put her on American Idol singing
Yeah.
death metal.
Singing death metal. She wants to sing a pop song, and I'm like, you miss where your talent is, sweetie. A 9-year-old singing death metal is pretty fucking hardcore.
Thank you so much for sharing.
You know, one, it's surprising to like see you here because, like, my medical experience was doctors are like,
Yeah, for sure.
you know what I mean? So obviously you're way more open, and when you're in this
Yeah.
rooms, you're really open.
Yeah.
And I look up to what you guys do at Stanford, but is there any, like, can you talk to, like, some of the science you're seeing or finding, and, like, maybe, like, is this more just, like, a hobby of yours?
Well,
or
it's what you're saying though. Like the people where I work are not as open,
Yeah,
and that
and
dictates
I'm not
all.
surprised,
It dictates
yeah.
all the science.
Yeah.
And so, part of the reason I don't really have anything scientific to add is because nobody's even exploring those domains.
Yeah.
It's just beyond what they believe is possible.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it is, because the conversation
Yeah.
that we have, we're like, why can't we measure when somebody enters flow? Like, I can see it in people the moment it happens, and it'd be cool to get an EEG, EKG, and an EMG reading when you see these brain waves and heart waves and muscle waves sync up. And then I could see the moment when the whole group syncs up. So if everybody was wearing these gadgets, like, I could see it, but I want to see science measure that. Because if it
There's so
syncs
many
up with what I see,
People
then I'm
seeing
like,
this stuff, and it blows my mind that, like, doctors in Western medicine is like, no. I mean, like, you, like, you're they're like, you're full of shit, right? It's like,
I'm just a crazy person.
yeah, it's, anyway, so I think you being here though, like, everything changes. And I'm grateful to see doctors like you in this environment, because I actually have my stepbrother's doctor, and he's so annoying and arrogant. He's such an idiot.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. But I've had some good experience with great doctors that have helped me, and there's just not enough of them out there. So thank you.
Yeah, it seemed like those great doctors had been humbled themselves and they had to heal themselves, and then it cracked open something that they're like, hey, there's no answer what I got trained in. I need to search outside of that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best doctors that I've ever been to, he will say things similar to what you say, where he'll be like, people say I'm the crazy doctor, because of the work that he does is non-traditional, I guess. Yeah, so it's like, even to talk about neuroscience in connection with quantum physics or anything about action at a distance, which in a way, like, the thing that kind of blows my mind actually is like the fact that people in neuroscience and psychology research see this as so beyond possible, but in physics we know it's a reality.
That's what I mean, yeah. Right?
It's like, how do you think that our psychology is more constrained than physics?
Yeah.
I mean, it just
we are all those things.
Yeah. So I don't know why it's so taboo. I mean, but yeah, like in the domain that I work in, the field, it's just very cookie cutter. You know, like you're expected to follow a certain number of steps to get to the next level. Like
Standard of care.
say that again.
Standard of care.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's for like medical terms, but it's like the exact same thing in research. Yeah.
Check box.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah. And they're really like, so much of the work is just noise, because it's this like checkbox philosophy. It's like, oh, I have to. Nobody even wants to make a discovery. They just need to publish this many papers. It's frustrating. Yeah.
And they have to get grants. The right
Yeah.
grants for
And they
it.
have to do
follow
that
everyone
to
else's
survive in
things
the
to get there.
profession. Like the way the incentive structure is set up, that you just like, that's what you got to do, and because that's what you got to do, that takes up all your time, and there's almost no room left for exploration, unless you really just like pave your own path, and
Which you will.
Which you are.
yeah, I mean, things are changing because a lot of people are frustrated with the system. So,
Well, the whole paradigm in which they're researching is archaic.
yeah.
I mean, what we know about AI and how to leverage computer power, it's not even being leveraged in a neuroscience kind of way.
Yeah.
Which,
I think it's an opportunity for us to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about like somehow creating some like MRI machine that's the size of a room.
The size
Can
of
measure
this, and then we
mortality.
measure
Yeah.
what's going on.
well,
It's so hard though.
well, I
Insane.
think, I also think it's not going to be in the kind of science that we're using right now. I don't know if anybody knows Albert Fritz Potts. And basically, he's doing research with subtle light in the body. You know, in one cell, there's over 100,000 chemical reactions in 1 second. And some of his research is indicating that literally when the heart beats, it gives an electric pulse. And he's theorizing that these chemical reactions are not random. They're synchronized, and they're being synchronized by the intelligence of what the heart is beating. I mean, it's beyond Kent, so I think when they start to come up with sensors where literally the light of our attention can be sensed, then I think there's going to be a whole different flood of information and data, and where things are going to be able to be figured out.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be in a traditional
No.
way where we're just tracking an electrical pulse, because that's only two-dimensional, and it's literally, that wave is three-dimensional. It looks like it's this, but it's not. It's like a morphing thing that goes like this.
I'll say like fMRIs, like you're only seeing a two-dimensional picture of a three-dimensional action, so you're limited by the technology. That's the problem. We're not as far along as we theoretically could be, I think, when it comes to science.
Yeah, even what we have access to right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the major developments in science have been from connecting different fields. So that's sort of what Maxwell is known for. He's like, he came up with this hypothesis that electric current and light are the same phenomena at different frequencies, basically. And it was just this crazy hypothesis, but 20 years later it was verified by experiment, and it's why we have like all our communication systems today. Like, it's the mathematics behind it. And I don't know, there's something that Peter talks about and we all know, like, from our experience, about attention can go somewhere immediately, and it doesn't take any time, and so it's like faster than the speed of light in a way, so I feel like there's like some element of extending our understanding of physical reality that, like, it's like right now the speed of light is seen as this like limit.
No,
And clearly there's like,
if
if we can measure this phenomena, then we can say, okay, like we can surpass this limit in this way, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I just hear stories time and time again of like even soldiers in war, or surfers, and like there's things that are happening that are phenomenon that just doesn't make any sense. Like, how is that? It's on the miraculous side, We had a childhood growing up, and remember we got your birthday bike, and we put it together, and you let me ride it, and I hit a bump, and I like went flying in the air like E.T. or something, and it was like I was literally looking down, like, how did this happen? And it was all in slow motion. I dropped Joe's bike, his brand new birthday bike, and all I could think of was like, dude, I'm so sorry for breaking your bike. And you're like, bro, how the fuck did you do that? And I was like, oh yeah, like, what was that? How did that happen, right? Like, and so we ran into each other because, it's been years, we hadn't seen each other in years, and I'm walking the Mission District with a girl from New York, and Joe rolls up in his cop car, and he like stops, and he looks at me and goes, Tony? And he gets out of his cop car, it's running in the middle of Mission, I don't care, just comes out, he's like, what's up, bro, and hug.
That's rad.
And it's like, how do you explain these phenomenons? Because I was thinking about you for years, and I thought about you, and then you just showed up, and that's the kind of stuff that like Magic Flow Bus is about. It's, let's not wait for research. Let's go out there and like, let's just experiment and like do it ourselves, and let's be the evidence, so that it's not like our words, because all these people are like promising things, or they're saying these things, but we're like actually living it, And it's like, people come into this kind of world and they go, holy shit, man, it's possible to live like this with groups of people that actually care, and they're like impacted by that, and then they go back to their world and they go on, I want to come back to this world, how can I live like that more often, more consistent? So yeah, I just think let's just keep doing what we're doing, Let's keep meeting, let's bring the kids in the mix.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we got to is everyone is listening to these people telling them that this is not possible, this is impossible, you can't do it, you can't achieve this, don't do it, you can't achieve it. And it's like, really? Why don't we give them a fucking shot? Let's see what they can do. I don't know what I can or can't do until I do it. And a lot of these people won't even try now, because they just listen to someone say, no, don't. And that's why I like Magic Flow Bus. It's, why not try? You ever slackline? Oh, I don't. So why are you telling yourself you don't know? So why don't you find out? And that's the difference. We just got to just try. Just go for it. Try that thing you're scared of. What's the worst that could happen? You don't do it well? Neither did anyone here the first time we tried it.
Oh yeah. And we were celebrating the falls.
Yeah. The laughter, like,
yeah.
that's part of it.
And then you saw everybody like up level as they kept approaching and exposing themselves.
And learning from everyone's failures and successes. Hey, why don't you try it like this? Hey, scientist lady, why the hell that work? I don't know. Okay. Like, it was great. It was fun. Everyone was just having a good time and learning new stuff.
Yeah,
Did you notice that we all had like this jovial laugh every time someone came off the slack line? Every time we would go, "Wah!" We all have this big belly laugh every time.
And why did everybody like stop talking when I'm on something?
Help me
slack
concentrate.
line or like pulling the bow, like everybody goes silent. It's like really weird. I'm like,
Until you fall, and then we laugh.
yeah. It's like that's interesting phenomenon.
Because you're the leader, man. You're the leader of the flow bus.
What's that?
You're the leader of the flow bus.
The driver.
Yeah, you're the driver.
So what's that guy up to? We're gonna watch him.
Why is he quiet right now?
You look like the guy, the bus driver from The Simpsons too.
What's his name, right?
Otto is sick.
And I'm actually getting a
Definitely
bus
Otto.
at the end of the year.
Yes.
What was
It
interesting?
manifested.
What was interesting for me is you guys were talking about people laughing, and every time I saw people laugh, there was just this light. There was just light passing through everything right there. Just, and everyone was connecting with each other and uplifting each other, and it was really beautiful.
Supporting.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, and everyone can like, ooh, this worked for me. Let me try it that way. Or, ooh, this might work this way. And yeah. And then you were like totally different. You're just doing your own. It was just so fun. I think it's cool to be able to like learn and then help other people. Like, hey, you try this. It worked really well.
Well, help other people. That's not instilled right now. You can help
Yeah, we're
someone.
helping. Yeah.
Just help them. And it's not a big deal. And you're not weak asking for help. Like, it takes a lot to be like, hey, I need some help right now with this. And it's, yeah, just change the dynamic. 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 100 people at a time.
Yeah, we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
We all want each other to do well.
Yeah. Look, I know that you want to succeed at my expense, but why can't we just both succeed?
Yeah, it's not either or.
Yeah, it's not, yeah, you don't have to be cutthroat.
In a field way, I think that just when people meet like this, it's changing the potentiality for everyone. Just making something greater possible for so many more people.
You know, sometimes it's nice to like unplug, come to an environment like this where basically you got people that are supportive. Everybody's kind of on the same page, just trying to have a good time. Whereas like when you go back like I'm from San Francisco, where like things are competitive, where it's like dog eat dog world, you know. Even on TV, like we're being conditioned. There's how many TV shows where like it's a competition. Everybody for themselves, and this team against that team. And I feel like the world's kind of getting more and more like that. Business world. It's nice to kind of unplug and just experience. It's like kind of like when you're a kid. It's just about having fun being in the moment, you know. And it's really nice to do. It's really nice. I feel like a kid today.
Yeah.
No cares. I wasn't
I
thinking
had that
about.
same thought, actually.
I wasn't thinking about what needed to be done at home, what I need to do next week. I was just kind of in the moment. It was really nice. It was enjoyable. Laughing and doing things.
Succeeded, Tony.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to Tony for what he's doing.
Thank you.
It's really a big thing.
It's Otto now.
Yeah.
Otto.
Hey kids, get on the bus.